Thanks for tuning into this video. This interview was absolutely fascinating. Max Phelps, the author of Spending Fast and Slow. Also with Getting Your Money Shit Together, Max's book is absolutely extraordinary. He is the founder and CEO of Golden Eggs. You are going to be fascinated by this interview. This interview was a way into the psychology of money, how it's actually practical for you to not only spend money while you have now, but you can save for holidays, save for experiences, you can invest for your future, and you're able to run your business effectively.
Show that people who use a credit card spend around 30% more than people that use cash. But a lot of these studies were done before we all had debit cards. Follow-up studies done with debit cards found something similar. We're just as likely to spend with a debit card. And that's because most people make the mistake, and I'm sure plenty of people listening, they make the same mistake. You open up a bank account to get paid into, and then you get a debit card linked to that. That is the silliest thing you could do, but almost everyone does it. And I don't know if you know this, but do you know what percentage of income Australians spend? Out of every $100 that Australians earn from their wages, do you know what proportion they spend?
If I remember, maybe around 90 cents.
It's like 99.1, $99.10. We're currently saving 90 cents out of every $100. And that means there's gonna be some people saving 20% of their income and some people that are overspending by 20% more than what they're earning.
I know you're watching this video, but real quick, please guys, please make sure you take the time to like, share, and subscribe. Go and hit the subscribe button so we can keep giving you guys content, so you guys can be notified as soon as we drop some news and information that's really going to help you. And then another thing, guys, and by the way, subscribing, it doesn't cost any money, nothing, no dollars, just go in there, hit the subscribe button. Again, Spotify, make sure you download our episodes on Spotify. We are exclusive to Spotify because we are getting that deal, a money coach. What was really interesting about you is, and this is the theme of the show, right? Having all these entrepreneurs here. When I was reading this book, I haven't finished. I'm on chapter 6, going to chapter 7. But it was like, I got to know you as a human being, right? Which is so crazy. So even before I ever met you, I got to know you, and I could see how you get into the psychology of money. Because money is a psychological thing, right? And you really got into, you know, asking the question of why. As I started reading your book, it made me aware, like I couldn't go back, right? And what I mean by that is it just opened my eyes of like being cautious of why am I doing what am I doing, right? Why am I going and spending that cup of coffee, for example, or the food, for example? And you made me challenge myself, but also you made me feel safe. In a way, like it was a safe space to say like, okay, how am I spending my money? What am I doing? Right. So I really do appreciate that. I just wanted to say that.
That's very nice to hear. Thank you very much.
So yeah, can you tell us a little bit more? Obviously, I've just said a little spill there. And that's just my personal experience by having started reading your book.
Yeah. So this is the second book, Spending Fast and Slow, which I the first book touched on this, which is something I observed many years ago. Golden Eggs is like my sort of third career. First career was worked in a multinational company, you know, pay-as-you-go employee. And then I had a couple of years as a high school teacher. And then I got into mortgage broking, and I found that as a mortgage broker, you ask people, you know, how much do you earn, how much do you spend, and how much have you got saved? And those three things should kind of add up. Because if you earn money, spend money, and save money, then surely if you're not spending it, you must be saving it. But people are so wrong when they think about their spending. And I know that we were the same. We used to have a budget back in the day where, you know, wife and 3 kids, had kids pretty young. You know, had 3 kids by the age of 29. But when you're running a household and you're whacking everything on a credit card, we had a budget for the year. And we blew the budget for the year, month in, month out, for the whole year. And you don't realize that what you think you're spending is not what you're actually spending. You're spending a lot more than you think you are. And so I noticed that about us. We'd made the change ourselves. And then when I became a broker, I started just listening to people and observing what they were saying, and realized they were saying some of the same things that I would have said when I thought I was in control of my money, when I know that I was not in control of my money when I look back. And so that made me just realize there's a lot more to it than just earn money, spend money, save money. Because the spending is a big, huge black hole in the middle. And we don't spend money on the things that we think we do. So I wanted to explore that more. So we went through that a little bit in getting your money shit together, but spending fast and slow really, I started reading books on psychology and trying to understand. And of course, Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, which is about behavioral economics and saying, we don't behave like econs, like robots. We behave like humans, and humans, are susceptible to a cup of coffee. Why wouldn't you get a cup of coffee when you feel like a cup of coffee? Why wouldn't you get something to eat when you feel like something to eat?
Wow, truly powerful. So I want to go on the mindset of this book that you just touched on, which is a psychology, right?
Yeah.
So what was your mindset like, and what sparked you to write this book? And then also, I do want to follow up the question was, you talked about how you guys blew the money, like with the credit card, and blew your budget. But how did you even get the awareness at that time of what you were doing?
Well, let me just ask that question then, because the thing is, if you never do a budget, which most people, probably 70% of people attempt some sort of budget, but don't actually follow it through. Most people actually don't have a detailed budget they check on regularly. The fact is, I did have a detailed spreadsheet and I did check it, but there was always a reason why this month was a bit more than it was supposed to be. Whether it was this month was the car rego, or this month it was the kids' back to school uniform, or this month it was somebody's birthday. There always seemed to be a reason why this month was special. We used a credit card, but we never paid a cent in interest. 15 years with a credit card, never paid a cent in interest. But when you project what you think you're going to spend for the year, and then you project what your savings should be, and then you look at how much money's in the bank, and there's a different amount of money there, well, then there's an awareness that there's short. And by the time I was 30, we were short 20 grand a year. That's what we thought we were spending versus what we actually spending. The gap was 20 grand a year. That's a lot of money, and that's consistent with what I see people doing. And there's a lot of psychology studies that back that up. So especially with a credit card, loads of studies show that people use a credit card spend around 30% more than people that use cash. But a lot of these studies were done before we all had debit cards. Follow-up studies done with debit cards found something similar, that debit cards are we're just as likely to spend with a debit card. And that's because most people make the mistake, and I'm sure plenty of people listening, they make the same mistake. You open up a bank account to get paid into, and then you get a debit card linked to that. That is the silliest thing that you could do, but almost everyone does it. Probably 90% of the people I speak to, that's what they do today. They spend money from a debit card where they pay loans. And that's so foolish. It's embarrassing. Our grandparents and great-grandparents would be laughing at us if they knew what we were doing. Those of us lucky enough to have great grandparents and great-grandparents have probably heard it from them. But, obviously you've read the book. You know what people used to do with cash, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Tuck it under the bed.
Tuck it under the bed. They take it home. You get paid cash. You don't put that cash in your pocket. You take that cash home. You put it under the bed. You put it in an envelope. You put it in a tin box. My mum used to put it in a purse in a cupboard. And then you walk back out the door with a little bit of pocket money. And then, because they knew that as soon as you walked out the door, there were people trying to get you to spend that money. There were things that you were going to be tempted to buy, whether it's a cup of coffee or whether it's something to eat or whether it's an item of clothing, a nice headband or something like that. There's always things to tempt us wherever we go, and there always has been. But everyone knew that what you walked around with, if that was just a little bit and all the important money was tucked away at home, then you couldn't really ruin the family finances. In fact, the only people that walked around with and put their whole pay in their pocket were drunks, gamblers, and idiots. And now we have a debit card linked to the bank account where we get paid, and we put that debit card either on our phone or in our pocket. And so we're now walking around like the drunks, the gamblers. We're not being very smart, are we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to be honest, fascinating. Truly, truly fascinating, because when I read the book, that's what I realized. I was like, wait a minute, because I remember when I used to have cash, right? I remember what it used to feel like when I used to take my $20 cash note, let's go and buy some chips or something. And then, you get your change back. But then sometimes you look back, okay, you know how much you've got in your hand. Yeah. But with the it just like, boom, tap, tap, tap.
Yeah, you've got no sense of it at all. It It's money's just, you know, theoretical nonsense in the sky that we don't even see. But it used to be physical. If you had a $20 note, you knew that if you just wanted like just a little, you know, even just a lolly, you didn't want to break a $20 note to buy a 20-cent lolly. You didn't want to do it. But you'd think nothing of just, you know, tapping a card for anything. Oh, it's only $2. I don't want to break my 20. And then when you break your 20, you go, geez, is that all the change I've got? I've got less money than I had before. And it's that feeling of loss that's missing. So we don't feel that, like when we spend money, we don't have that feeling of loss. Credit cards make it worse because they disconnect the time between when you pay the credit card bill and the time that you purchase. And so there's this like 1 month, even 55-day lag between when you see the money leave your bank account and when you actually tap for something. So it's called decoupling. It's when we have no sense of loss, and therefore we have no sense of cost of what things are. And we don't make choices. We just think, oh yeah, I think I want it, so I'm going to have it because my card says yes. And of course your card says yes, because we earn much better money than people did 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. But we spend it in a much worse way than people did 50 years ago. There's still people that use cash, but have you tried to use cash these days?
Yeah, they make it hard.
Where do you get cash?
I can't even remember last time I had cash.
I've got $5 in my pocket now. The only reason I've got $5 now in my pocket is because every now and again, when the lottery jumps to 50 million, I might buy a $5 ticket. Mm-hmm. And I won $45 a couple of weeks ago. And I had that in my pocket. Most of it I've given away to people on the street, you know, beggars. Mm-hmm. People asking for money. I give them $10, $20, whatever. Now I've got $5 left. And I got it in my pocket today because I knew I was coming in the city. And so if I see someone on the corner, they're getting my $5. That's to me what cash is. It's something that you give to people on the street.
Wow. So, yeah, it's fascinating. But do you think they've done that on purpose with the limit of access to use cash, or more of it's a centralized digital system that everything?
Look, it's in most businesses' best interests to use more and more electronic payments. Yes. Firstly, it's a lot easier to manage. It's a lot safer for, you know, if you're running a business, it's a lot safer for you to not have cash, to have everything tapped. Unfortunately, you have to declare the GST, you have to pay tax on the money, and so the government would love us all to do that. But also banks are charging us 1 or 2% per transaction, half to 2% per transaction every time we're tapping even a debit card these days. So there's fees involved. But every business wants to take the card, and for us, it's like we just, humans are basically lazy. Mm-hmm. You know, we think that we work hard and we do all these things to kind of innovate and try and whatever, but basically humans are designed to be lazy. We're designed to use energy and effort when we need to and conserve energy and effort when we don't. And so going down to an ATM and pulling cash out, that's a faff. Having a card is a lot easier. Mm-hmm. I still use cards today, even though I know the disadvantage of using them, but we just use them very differently to the way that normal people do with a credit card or with access to all their pay on a debit card.
Mm. And that's what I want to get to. I want to get straight into it with this book and some of your advice, especially for the people who are here listening, because, you know, what you've been able to achieve in your career financially, business, you know, you're an expert in your field, right? You're in that top 1%. So my question, you broke things down, especially with this fast and slow money system. So you have a bills account, weekly spending account, a fund account, and a goal and savings. So can you break that down? Because am I correct?
Yeah. So that's pretty close. So you missed holidays, but apart from that, so what I learned myself from trial and error, when we stopped using the credit cards, and the only reason I learned this was pure luck. My company moved me to a job in Thailand, mm-hmm. and they used to pay half my wage in Thailand, half my wage in Australia. Mm-hmm. Now, I still had debit card access to my account in Thailand, and I did have debit card access to my money in Australia, but I knew there was an exchange rate, and it's easy just not to touch that money. We'll just live on the money in Thailand. That was the money that was easy to access. And what I learned then, and what I then adapted later on in our own finances, was the first separation is the separation between bills and discretionary spending. So bills are the things where you don't really have a choice. So it's your rent, your mortgage, your electricity, your gas, your phone, your insurances. They're the things where you don't really have a choice. And mixing that together with discretionary spending automatically means two things. One is that you might miss a bill because you accidentally chose to spend some money you shouldn't have done. The second thing is if you're lumping it all together, because we're basically lazy, when we want to analyze where we've been spending, we don't add up all the little things. We look for the big things, and the big things typically are the bills. So when my ex-wife and I used to look at our finances and our credit card bills and say why we've gone over, it was often because, oh, the electric bill came for the quarter. But in fact, the electric bill was in the annual budget, but we just noticed it that month. But when you see, 150 items on a credit card bill, and you know that you're over by, $1,000 for the month, and you see a $750 bill, well, surely the $750 bill has to account for the $1,000 overspend. And so you stop looking. When you separate the bills from the not bills, you don't have that excuse anymore. The bills are covered. Bills are so easy to predict in a year. Not easy to predict in a pay cycle. Because if I say to you, add up all your bills for the year, you know that you've got one car rego, you've got one car insurance, maybe you've got 12 other insurance payments, you've got 12 monthly repayments on your phone, you've got quarterly electric, so you've got 4 of those, and quarterly gas. So it's easy to add them up for the year and then divide them by whatever your pay cycle is and work out how much your bills are going to be. The discretionary spending, on the other hand, unfortunately, comes via 2 different ways. One is our routine, and the second one is on our whimsy.
Okay.
And so what we learned was, and when we first started doing it, we separated out bills from discretionary spending. And then we decided to separate out saving from savings for our future and savings to spend later. So if you're going to save money up to spend later because you need to buy some furniture, you need to buy a car, you need to take a holiday, that's a different saving purpose. And if you mix those two types of savings together, then you're likely to do one of 2 things. You're either going to not spend any money on anything because you're busy saving for your future, and then you don't take holidays, you don't buy anything, and you feel like a miser. Or when you do, you just smash your savings. Whereas when you separate the 2 things out, you're more likely to keep your future savings separate and then your savings to spend later in another bucket. But then what we realized when I started coaching this maybe 12, 13 years ago. 12, 13 years ago, I started coaching this. I quickly realized that people actually struggled with anything like a monthly budget and even a fortnightly budget. So if I said to you, here's some money, that's your money to spend for the fortnight, what's going to happen is that you're going to run out of money in the first week and have no money for the second week. And then when I was reading about this, and in fact, it's a study I could not find when I was trying to reference the book, but it's a study that I read, and I'm going to repeat it now, but I can't reference it. And that's that they gave one group of students $1,000 to last a month for 4 weeks, and the other group of students $250 a week. And they had to cover their food, their going out, everything they needed. Now, the group that got given $1,000 for the month were all out of money in week 3. There was not one single person who had money left in week 4, and every single one of them was stressed about money. The group that had $250 a week, every single one of them had money left over at the end of the 4 weeks. And they all reported feeling much less stressed about money. Because they very quickly learned in week 1 that once the money's gone, it's gone, and you need to stop spending. But also, every single decision, if you think about this in the context of your life right now, think about spending $25. Now, $25 when you've got $1,000 is nothing. $25 when you've got $250 actually feels like it's something significant. It's taking a chunk out of your $250. So you're more likely to think twice before you spend that money than you are when you've got $1,000. And this is what Daniel Kahneman observed in spending fast and slow. In thinking fast and slow, is the way we make decisions. Most of our decisions are based on very quick thinking.
System 1
thinking. System 1 is just very quick, instant thinking. It's the reactive thinking. It's what allows us to be intuitive. If we're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, we don't need to sit and ponder our 3 different options and weigh up the pros and cons of each one. We need to run or fight. That's our only really two options. And whichever one we choose, we better do it fast, because the quicker we start running, the better chance we've got, or the quicker we find something to fight with, the better chance we've got. If we can't make those decisions, we don't survive as a species. Now, after we've done fighting, we can maybe, if we survive, plan a better way to be ready to next time by keeping a spear handy, checking our exits, or checking the points where we're at so that we can prepare better. And that's system 2 thinking. But we can do that when we've got time, and we don't really like to do too much of it. So system 2 is about planning and forecasting and thinking about how life is going to be. And what I want to try and encourage people to do is plan their lives now so that your system 1 can take over. But even system 1 knows that if you're spending $25 and you've only got $250, $25 is a big amount of money. $50 is huge. When you've got $1,000, $50 is nothing. And so you're going to say yes to more $25 and $50 items when you've got 1,000 than you are when you've got 250. So we found that weekly spending actually suited people, both because it gave people less to spend and therefore they'd make more conscious decisions, and also because most of us have a routine. Monday to Friday plus the weekend. That's our routine. Whether we're hanging out with friends, getting our coffees, getting our lunches, we have a routine. And of course, buying groceries. Most of us do that weekly. So if you have an amount of money for the week, then you know that that's what you've got and you better make it last. But no worry, there's more coming next week. So you don't have to worry about running down to every last cent of that weekly budget, because more money's coming in a few days. We're a fortnight and a month. Nobody can survive a week broke or half a month broke. So the weekly is the most important thing that we figured out later. So the bills get separated off, then we have the weekly. And then we've got the savings, which, like I say, was initially we just had it as saving for the future, save to spend. And then later we realized everyone wants to take holidays. And holidays is a big expense. And if you save up for holidays, it makes you feel good about saving for holidays and feel good when you come back from your holiday and you've just spent the budget. So we ended up having your future, your holidays, and then what we call fun, which is the other clothes and laptops, gifts, gadgets, all the kinds of things that we don't do every single week, but we still do. And we found that works best. Again, we've tried it lots of different ways. A lot of people try it by pay cycle. It works best by month.
So when you say works best by month, is like when you get paid that month is to now, that's when you split it up and allocate. Because how do you know what to allocate for the weekly, right? Like, how do you know, is that now?
So the only way to do this is at best once a year. So again, we're all very lazy. So if we could set up a budget today and then just stick to it for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years without referencing back, that would be a really good budget to have, wouldn't it?
Because even me, I don't want to, it's a headache to even go and start thinking about this stuff, you know, or not necessarily thinking about it, but going and looking at the budget and, you know, but yeah.
But the payback is huge because you do it once. The last time I separated from my wife for the last 12 months, but it was last August, almost a year ago, when we changed the figures in our budget for the first time in 5 years. So for 5 years, we had the same amount of money landing in a weekly account every single week, and the same amount of money landing in the monthly account every month. Now our pay goes over to the bills account. It never touches the weekly. It never touches the monthly. The pay goes over to the bills account, and then we drip feed the money to ourselves weekly.
Automatically? Absolutely.
Crazy.
So
automatically.
So you can go to your bank, because what I like what you said in the book was, when you like lose access to something, so you don't see it, like you said, remove it from your wallet, remove it from your card on your phone. Like, that's so true, because I know I can't touch that money. So let's say that's for the bills. My name is Sugira Rubasha, the co-founder of the Rubasha Family Podcast. Now, I know you have a story to tell. I know you have a mission and vision that you obsess constantly about, and you're solving problems in the marketplace. So I want to sit down and get your story. I want to hear the real juice and authentic of who you are, because at the end of the day, people want to know about you. They care about you as a human being. So this is your chance to come on the Rubasha Family Podcast and be part of our Founder Series. We are hosting a Founder Series with entrepreneurs from all over the world who had an imagination to create their business. We want to know you, the person, and how you're solving problems in the marketplace. So if you want to get in touch, fill out our quiz. Now, the quiz is a way for us to qualify you to see if you can come on the show. We can really see how powerful your brand is, where you are, so we can have you as an industry expert to come and tell your story. Business and life is all about communication. How can you tell stories, and how can I sit down and ask you questions that are going to get to your soul? See you soon, right?
Yeah.
But is there a way you can systemize all that, where it goes into the holiday account, which is you don't touch that, the savings account, you don't touch that, and now it's just coming into the week?
So let me explain the system that I actually use. So there's a great product. It's called a cash management account. Most banks have it. I use the Macquarie one. Now, a cash management account is actually a product designed for self-managed super funds. And because it's designed for self-managed super funds, you can have one in your own name, but it's designed for that. There is no card access. You cannot get a card for it. They won't issue you a debit card for it at all. Firstly. Secondly, they pay you interest on balances. So that we've got a Reserve Bank rate of interest at the moment of 4.25%. They pay you about 3.5% interest on that balance. It's got unlimited transactions, and you can also have automatic transfers and BPay. So it does all the same things as a regular bank account does, but it's fee-free, and they pay me interest on my deposit. And I have that with Macquarie. Now, I then use HSBC for my spending account. And so I've now got an automatic transfer from my Macquarie to my HSBC account. Now, at the moment, I'm living singly, so I only get $150, and that's enough for my groceries, coffees, lunches, anything that I want to buy.
That comes into your weekly.
It comes into my weekly in HSBC. And if I want to buy something right now, if I get hungry on the way home and I want to stop at Macca's, I'm going to check my HSBC app and see if I've got enough money to do it. I can't check I can check my Macquarie, but I don't have a card for it, so I can't touch it.
And you can't transfer anything?
So here's the other great thing, is you know how money is instantly transferred these days? It's not instantly transferred with a cash management account. So in fact, if I want to transfer money from my cash management account with Macquarie into my HSBC or into any other bank, if I do it today, the money will be there tomorrow. Okay, that's fine. If I need money tomorrow, I can plan for that.
Yeah.
But if I think I need money today to buy Macca's on the way home, and I don't have money in my HSBC, guess what? I'm not buying Macca's on the way home.
Yeah.
I don't have any money.
Yeah.
I'm broke.
Yeah.
Just like in the old days when you had money in your pocket, and when the money ran out, you were broke. Now, having said that, I do keep a secret 20 in the back of my key ring. So I do have $20 that I know is there, but I try to forget about that. So in a genuine emergency, if I did genuinely need to do something, I've got access to that if I need it. But most emergencies are not really emergencies. It's just like, oh, I was really hungry, or I just really fancied this, or I just really needed to do whatever. It's not a real emergency. We don't have very many emergencies in modern life. We invent them because we don't have them. But yeah, so weekly comes to my HSBC, and then I've got an HSBC savings account, and I get some more money monthly.
That gets to put into the savings account.
Monthly in my HSBC. It means I can instantly transfer from my HSBC savings into my HSBC transaction account immediately. So I can spend my monthly money, but that's what I call fun money. That's for, if I've got a birthday, so it was my son's birthday last week, so took my son and his girlfriend out for dinner, and obviously that meant I spent, $350 on a dinner out. I didn't have that in my week's money, but I had it in my month's money. I knew the month's money was landing. I knew that my son's birthday was this month, so therefore it was easy to plan out.
So that goes monthly. Okay. And then now this two savings, the holiday one, and then the savings for something.
Yeah, so the holiday account is my holiday account is with Macquarie.
Do you have access to a card of that? No.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's holiday money.
Yeah.
When I go on holiday, I can transfer that to my HSBC.
Okay. And to normally transfer that, like let's say, because what happens is now, let's say you get, I need to pay for this, and then, I've got some money in that holiday account, It's not easy for people to transfer.
But again, I can't. Because it's not easy for me to transfer. It will take me a day. Secondly, it's on the Macquarie app. And I know that if I'm accessing the Macquarie app, I'm looking at things and planning for tomorrow. I'm not doing it on impulse today. And as soon as you're planning for something, that is system 2 thinking. That's when you're starting to think about what you're doing next. System 1 is when you're on the way home, feeling a bit peckish, and you just want to stop off. Or you go to the pub with friends and you want to have a drink, and you go, I'm going to have a drink, and then I have a second drink, and then I have a third, a fourth, a fifth. Well, guess what? If you've only got $50 left in your account, then $50 divided by the cost of a drink, that's how many drinks you're having tonight. Whereas if you've got a debit or credit card,
it's easy. Okay, so with the cash management account, because I think this is practical steps, and I hope people are writing this down. So with the cash management account, you're able to, in that whole umbrella, you're able to categorize. Is that how it is? Because
I just set up automatic transfers.
Okay.
So all I do with the cash management account, I pay my bills from that. If an electric bill comes in, most of them are automated anyway, or I just BPay it from the Macquarie account. I don't need a card for that. Yeah. I just BPay it straight from the account.
From the Macquarie account.
Yeah, and there's no fees for BPaying, so that's a lot easier.
Yeah, and sorry to cut you off, and all the income goes into that one.
All the income goes to Macquarie.
Yeah.
And so, and it's just, especially right now, we've just had the new tax year has started. We've all got a pay rise because of the new tax year, because of the tax cuts that have come through. And if all of your pay is landing in your account where your debit card is, you'll probably spend all that extra.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, all of that extra is going into the Macquarie Bills account, and I've still got the same 150 coming into my HSBC account.
Yep, and then it's all automated to each different accounts.
Correct. And because I've fixed the automations, the only place money can build up is actually in the HSBC, where I'm not, if I don't bother checking anything for a few months, and I've accidentally, I'm self-employed. I gave myself a pay rise, and the government gave me one too. So there's more money coming in, and so the bills account is growing until I decide to increase the amount of money that's going to my holiday account, increase the amount of money that's going to my long-term savings, increase the amount of money that's going weekly, or increase the amount of money going to my monthly. But those are manual steps that I have to make, which requires effort, which requires thought, which requires system 2 thinking, and that means I'm probably going to spend less of it than I would if I had it done the other way. Most people have their money land in their account they can transact from, and then move an automatic fixed amount to their savings, and then until they change that fixed amount, they save the same amount of money. And therefore, if their habit was saving $1,000 a fortnight last month, they'll continue to save $1,000 a fortnight until they remember that they've received a pay rise or their net pay has gone up. And so they're just spending 100% of the difference. Whereas I will save 100% of the difference until I decide to spend a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. So, and I like it. It's very practical in terms of, okay, know all your bills, because sometimes bills do add up and they do rack up. So know all your bills and pay your bills out of that same place, which is in your cash management account. Yeah, the income's coming in there, and then you automate the percentages of that comes to the weekly.
I automate not the percentages, the fixed dollar amounts.
Okay.
I choose the dollar amounts. Now, you could, when I was together with my wife, she would get $430 a week. And that was to cover the groceries for 2 of us and the discretionary spending. In fact, I only had $25 a week landing in my HSBC before, because I'm a natural tight ass and I don't like spending money. So therefore, what I get and what you get and what someone else gets is your own choice. How much do you want to spend? In my experience, most of the money weekly is wasted. Is wasted on, and I say that even though I include groceries, because a lot of people, some of your listeners are being, but groceries are a bill. Groceries are absolutely not a bill. Yeah. Until we get in-home systems that monitor what's in our cupboards, what's in our fridges, that we put a meal plan through, and that automatically orders those things online at the cheapest possible price, we have to walk into a supermarket with a trolley and choose what to put in our trolley. And while we're doing that, I can tell you right now, the average household throws away $2,000 a year worth of food. Just throws it away. Because we buy stuff that goes out of date. We buy stuff that, sometimes it goes out of date because we plan to make it and then we ordered it anyway. Or we planned to make it and then didn't have the other things that went with it because we didn't have a meal plan. So, and the other thing is, so I'll tell you something really scary. This is one of the studies that freaked me out. And it's a concept that Daniel Kahneman picks up on, which is called anchoring. So when we're making a decision, we often make that decision with an anchor in mind, with a figure in mind. So you know how before I was telling you about $1,000 that a $25 decision seems small. Okay. Now imagine if I asked you to think of $100,000. Every decision is tiny, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So a study was done, and this is an amazing study. They got two groups of people, both asked a question before they walked into the supermarket, and then their spending was monitored at the end. Asked one question, and then they just did whatever they wanted. One group was asked, how much money have you got in super? And that figure could have been 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. The second group of people asked, what's the smallest note you've got in your wallet? And so then suddenly they're thinking about, in fact, it was in America, so it would be $1, $2, $5. Now, that's called anchoring. Now, the people are thinking of the $100,000, and they're walking around doing their supermarket shopping. Everything's cheap. Top level steak at $40 a kilo. Throw it in the trolley, it's fine. But the people thinking of a $1 or a $2 note, they're looking at everything going, Jesus, this is a lot of money. Everything seems to be expensive. And all of a sudden, all these things around the supermarket seem either cheap or expensive, depending on which group you're in, because of this random anchoring that was introduced by the test. The result of that was the people that were anchored to the big number, the $100,000 equivalent, spent 30% more than the people that anchored to the small number. So don't tell me groceries is a bill. It's not a bill. It's about your choices. No. And I know from my own personal experience as well, in the case of myself and my wife, I used to do all the grocery shopping. Now, as a tight ass, I will buy I'll shop at Aldi. I buy own label. I buy the cheapest cuts of meat. I buy whatever I can to save money. Most economical pack size. That's because I'm a tight ass. Most people are not tight asses. My wife, my ex-wife especially, not a tight ass. She would walk into the supermarket and buy the perfect pack size that fit in the cupboard or the fridge or wherever, the brand that she liked the best, regardless of whether it was on special or not on special, the best cuts of meat. Now you can imagine her grocery bill and my grocery bill were much higher. Well, then it's not a bill, is it? Mm-hmm. Now, once we went to the weekly spending approach, where she was given the money, and by the way, you have to cover groceries, you're doing groceries from now on. All of a sudden she realized that grocery shopping was eating into the money that she could spend on going out with friends or buying stuff for herself. And she suddenly realized that what a waste of money all that stuff was for buying the branded goods and the special pack sizes and all the other things. All of a sudden she started shopping at Aldi, buying the cheap cuts, buying the own label, because she realized that the less she spent there, the more she could spend on the stuff that was actually important to her. I'm in another relationship now, and even she's found that. She found that by looking at toothpaste. Toothpaste is a category you wouldn't think about, would you? Mm. Okay. You would just walk to the shelf and buy whatever toothpaste you think. Do you know the difference between the own label toothpaste and the branded toothpaste? Mm. Branded toothpaste, about $7 a pack. Own label, $1.50. Do you know what the difference technically is between those things? Next to nothing. Because it's about the brush and the brushing technique that cleans your teeth. The toothpaste is just a lubricant. Now, once my girlfriend went onto a similar system, she looked at the supermarket and thought, do I want to spend an extra $5.50 on a better brand of toothpaste? Because $5.50, that's a drink at the pub almost. Or it's a coffee. And, coffee's often maligned by people on budgets. And I go, but if you want a coffee and you want to hang out with your friends and have a coffee, it's $5.50. Would you rather have a coffee with friends or buy fancier toothpaste? And almost everyone says, give you a cheap toothpaste, I'm going for a coffee. But if you don't make that choice, then you're just automatically spending the extra. You're spending 30% more. So that's what we found. Groceries is one of the biggest areas of savings that people can make in the household budget without even realizing it.
Wow. Really, really fascinating stuff. I wanted to talk about a concept of saving 20% and putting that into your savings. So can you break that down a little bit? And because this is interesting, right? Because anyone can do this with how much money you're earning. But if you can do this right now with the little or not as much.
I've done the maths. I've done the maths with different household structures and different incomes. And it's almost always possible to save 20% of your income.
20% of the income.
Yeah, almost always. When you look at where the minimum wage is, where you look at where the poverty line is, it's actually possible for a couple, both on minimum wage, to save 20% of their income, as long as they're not this. Now, 20% is a figure I use, but it's actually 20 to 50%, depending on your accommodation. Okay. So what we normally say is, on average, people spend 30% of their income on rent or a mortgage, and that should leave 20% available for savings. Of course, if you're spending 50% of your income on rent or a mortgage, there won't be enough for savings. But then I would suggest that you look for somewhere a bit cheaper, or you actually look at some of your mortgage and understand that is also savings. Okay. But 50% on rent, on accommodation plus savings. That means someone living at home with their family, not paying any rent, they should be saving 50% of their income. Someone who is paying rent, then they should look to get their rent down to 30% or less of their income, of their combined net income, and then save 20%.
Okay, so if they're paying rent, like depending on someone's living situation, like you could be living with your parents and paying rent, let's say, you could save 30%, or try to get it towards 30%.
Yeah, so I would say if you put 50% of your income towards accommodation savings, and the other 50% goes towards your bills, your routine discretionary spending, and your fun discretionary spending, and your holidays. So people go, oh, but hang on a second, holidays is savings. Like, yeah, it's saving to spend later. That means it's spending money. So the 50% that you're spending includes the holiday savings. And again, I've done the numbers, and almost any household can do it, unless they're paying. The most impoverished household structure in Australia is unemployed singles without housing commission accommodation, because it's impossible to rent if you're on unemployment benefit in Australia. If you're a single with no accommodation from the government, it's impossible. There's nowhere in Australia you can do it.
Yeah,
because the government subsidises your rent to the tune of about $90 or $100 a week, plus they give you enough to live on. You can't rent anywhere for $100 a week, anywhere. But for everyone else who's paying rent, either by sharing with other people, taking in a flatmate, or forming a couple where you weren't sure about forming a couple before, then as soon as there's two of you covering the rent, then rent should be less than 30% of your income, and you should be able to cover 20% of savings.
20% of savings. So that 20% is
hard savings for your future.
Yeah. Let's say you're even saving up for a mortgage, which is an investment property, or you're wanting to buy an investment property as money. Let's say you're earning $2,000 a month. 20% of that 2,000 is, the 2,000 hits the cash management account. Bills get automated. 20% of that money is going to savings.
But we have to calculate that 20% and just automate that dollar figure, and then change it when the income changes.
Change it when the income changes.
Because you can't automate a percentage in a banking system.
Okay.
So you have to actually work out the dollars. The difference is, if you automate the dollars going to the spending, it's this spending where is another fascinating thing when you talk to people. Because ask people all the time, how much do you spend? And they say, oh, my groceries is this much, and my electric is this much, and they add everything up. And a typical couple earning $8,000 to $10,000 a month would tell me that their spending, excluding rent, is around $2,000. Now, I know that that's way too low, but that's what they get to when they add up all of their bills and their groceries and a little bit of pocket money. They get to about $2,000 a month. But when you look at what they're actually spending, it's more like between $4,000 and $7,000 a month. So it's the other $2,000 to $5,000 that they're spending on other stuff, which is not bills and it's not groceries. So it's not the cost of living, it's the cost of lifestyle and the cost of choices. And when you look at the average across the country in some categories, it's not hard to see where that money goes, because we spend an average of $100 a month on mobile phones. Not on the mobile phone plan, on new mobile phones, new mobile devices. That's $100 a month. Nobody takes that into account. They just buy a $2,000 phone or a $1,000 phone every couple of years and don't think of that as spending. The average Australian household spends $100 a month gambling. Now, I know some people it's way more and some people it's way less, but even then, you buy a lottery ticket every now and again, you have a quick flutter on the horses or a slap of the pokies, and that money disappears pretty fast. We spend a lot of money on clothing in Australia. Our average spending on fast food, not delivering food, fast food like Macca's, pizza, whatever, $50 a week, $2,000 a year. And yet whenever I've asked people the question, if you could choose between a $2,000 holiday, just a quick trip to Fiji or something, or $50, $40 fast food vouchers, which would you choose?
Choose a holiday.
Everyone chooses the holiday. And I go, yeah, but look at your bank statement. You spent that on fast food. But they don't, because it's only $40 or $20 or $5 or $10 at a time, you don't notice it, you don't see it. So you don't add it up for the year and go, Jesus, for the year I spent $2,000 on fast food? Whereas when you work to a fixed weekly budget, then you probably don't have the money for fast food or ordering food in every day, every week, like you did before. But the amount of money we spend these days on home delivered food is outrageous.
So let me ask you, as you increase your money, like let's say, like entrepreneurship, and you have more money coming in and you've set up this system, how often are you to go in and kind of improve, or not improve it, but like set?
So here's the crazy thing. Whenever we've done this with people, we've implemented it, and then they've got to take a big pay bump. Maybe one partner was working part-time and then they've gone to full-time. And then we say, right, now we've put your full-time wages in. Where do you want to spend that money? Where do you think they choose to spend that money? Do you think they take more every week, more every month, more in holidays, or more in savings? Where do you think they choose to spend that money?
Between savings and holidays.
Yeah, almost everyone. Do you want to get better holidays, more holidays? They often take, I said my wife and I stuck to the same budget for 5 years. When we changed the amount, we realized that the cumulative inflation had been about 12.5% over that time. We chose to increase the weekly budget by just 7%. And we chose to increase the monthly budget by, I think, about 10%. The rest went into holidays. So we chose to spend more on holidays. So even when you look at what you consider to be your lifestyle, or the lifestyle you want, you don't put more money into fast food and takeaways. You tend to put more money into holidays. Some people do. I know some people at high level, very high level entrepreneurs, and there's one of the famous YouTuber, I forget his name, and he says, why would I cook food when I can order it and have someone else deliver it? And that makes perfect sense when you are an entrepreneur at that level. For most of us that are not at that level or don't necessarily aspire to be at that level, it's just a waste of money. A lot of food you can make very fast. One of my favorite dinners that I make takes me 10 minutes to make. Now, there's no way that I can order. If you think about the process of ordering in fast food, it's still a process. You have to decide what you want, and then pick up your phone app, search through the thing, find what you're looking for. Then you wait around for ages. And then eventually somebody comes to the door, you collect the thing, and then you unwrap it from the box, and then you start eating. Now, that process that you just went probably cost you maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes to do. And yet there's some meals you can make in 10 minutes at home. So really, you've only saved 3 minutes. So to me, that's why would I do that? I'll have the cheap meal and I'll put more money in holidays, thanks very much. Or save up for my next electric car. Or put money towards my future.
Yeah, and this is really powerful when you can automate this. Like, so now you know, and it's just kind of clicking in my head. Okay, someone could put $100 a week. I'll put into that weekly account. I have all the bills getting paid there. I have the holidays, 200 or whatever, And
the crazy thing is, money suddenly makes sense again. Because at the moment, money doesn't really make sense. If you're using a debit card for anything, money's just like, it doesn't make sense. And you suddenly get stressed because you see a big bill come in, or 2 or 3 big bills hit you at once, and you kind of think, where's all the money gone? And we start dipping into savings. I often say to people, how much do you put into savings on a regular basis? And they'll say, $1,000 a fortnight or $2,000. And I say, okay, and when do you dip into your savings? And they say, I dip into my savings for holidays, car rego, and Christmas. And I go, okay, were any of those things predictable to you at the outset? Because I would say they all were.
Yeah.
So the problem isn't not that you're dipping into savings. The problem is you spent all those little bits of money in between that meant you didn't have the money for your car rego, for Christmas, and for your holiday. Whereas if you put the money aside for those, you'd have the money for those, but you just got less money weekly. And so when you've got that, suddenly you've got, my girlfriend, she gets No, she gets $200 a week. And that's enough to cover just groceries for herself and a couple of beer or a couple of gin and tonics down the pub. Although she's now talking about giving up drinking. But she makes that money last, and she looks at everything now within the context of that $200 and makes it last.
You make it last.
You do. I always love, Michael Michalowicz talks about the toothpaste. So I mentioned toothpaste before, but imagine a roll of toothpaste. If it takes you 27 days to use 90% of the roll of toothpaste, how long does the last 10% last?
Actually ask you a question. I want you to think about this question. Are you an authority figure in your space? I know you're an entrepreneur, well, you're a solopreneur, and you're determined, you're a thought leader. But the question is, are you an authority figure in your space? Because let's be honest, how are you going to separate yourself from your competitors? Where is your personal brand? And you know what? We have actually something very special for you. Follow me. You see, we have a scorecard, right? So you can actually evaluate if you're an authority figure in your space, because at the end of the day, when you separate yourself from your competitors. That is where opportunities come to you because your brand is strong. You have brand equity. So for you to actually see how long away you are from that, or if you're close there, the link in the description, you can fill out a scorecard. And this scorecard is amazing because it lets us know and see where you are. And it's just for free for you to actually see where your business is, where you are as a solopreneur, and how you're going to get to that level of being an authority figure in your space. Because you see, here at ETS Rubasha Media, I'm going to be honest with you, we are at limited capacity. We only want to be able to tailor our clients to the ones we know we can deliver value, because value takes time and we want to be able to work with your business. But the scorecard is actually just for you to see where you are and are you an authority figure? Think about it and we'll see you. Link in the description.
Or less. Longer. Well, mathematically, it should last you 3 days, because if you use 90% in 27 days, then you're using 10% every 3 days. So therefore, the last 10% should last you 3 days. It doesn't. It lasts you almost another 27 days, because you make that last little bit of toothpaste. You squeeze it and squeeze it. You just use less. You know, when the toothpaste is, when it's new, you go, get a big dollop on the thing. And then when it's getting towards the end, you just get less and less and less and less. It's the same with money. But you don't get to explore that creativity of how you get to that last little squeeze until you've lived in a system where you go, that's your money for the week. Get used to it. And you do get used to it so quickly. For most people, it's within 3 weeks. They go, oh yeah, this is fine. First week was a bit of money just all disappeared and we go, Jesus Christ, where did it all go? Second week, it's like we planned it a bit better. By the third week, you know what you're doing.
You get used to it.
And you kind of go, you know what, I'm not going to make zero my zero line. I'm going to make $50 my zero line.
Yeah.
Because I know I want that $50 just in case.
Yeah. For that weekly. And in saying this, you can like gradually increasing that weekly.
Absolutely.
When you're earning.
If you want to. But again, it's a choice. When it's automatic, it's up to you to go in and go, oh no, I'm going to change it from $50 to $100, or from $100 to $200. It's a choice. But you have to understand that choice is, choice to go from $100 to $200 is $100 a week, is $5,200 a year. Do you really want to spend an extra $5,200 a year on stuff that you're not sure about? Or do you want to put $2,600 of that towards a holiday and then give yourself an extra $50 a week? And again, most people, when they have that choice, go, bit more to holidays?
Yeah. So you go into system 2 thinking.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Every single time. And then once you've set it in place, you just live with it. Live with it for another 6 months, 12 months, a year, 2 years. Well, when we're coaching people, we help them set up. We tend to only coach people when both of them have a spending problem. Where one of them's kind of got a really good handle on things, but they often fight with the other one. It kills the fights. You have the fight once. How much money can I get every week? How much money can I get every month? Once you've got that, it's like, well, that's the budget now. Work it. But for couples when both of them are kind of a bit, we tend to coach them individually. When we coach them individually, we set them up. We work out what's going to work for them, what's going to work with the numbers, set them up in the beginning. Then we have a review after a month. Usually that month review is just to say, is it all working? Did you get what you were supposed to get? How was it in the first couple of weeks? But within a month, they've all gotten used to the weekly. It's just habit now.
Yeah,
and after 3 months, when we have a check-in, it's like, how's it going? Yes, fine. It's working. How are you getting on with the weekly? Yes, weekly's fine. But what about the monthly? Oh, monthly's really good. I was so happy when that came in. Do you know that one of the funny things is when you pay everything on credit card, you lose the joy of a treat. Okay? Remember when you were a kid and you used to get a treat? And it was a treat. It was like, no. And then suddenly it was a yes. When you have a credit card, it's yes. When you have a monthly amount coming in, it's like all of a sudden that month's money comes and you go, oh, my money landed for the month. I can treat myself now to something. Some of those things that you've been saying no to the last few weeks since the last month's money ran out, you can say yes to now. And we get more excited about treats. We feel better. We actually get more happiness for the same dollar spent if that thing is a treat than if we did it every single time we felt like it.
And with this, what makes sense with the weekly spending, you can put it, like you said, monthly. So then at least for the month, you know how much you're having to spend for the week. And while everything else...
No, hang on a second. Weekly is weekly. Monthly is monthly.
Okay.
You get weekly and you get monthly.
Oh, but I thought, okay, so the monthly is for... Oh, you get monthly as well?
Yeah.
Oh, fun money. Yeah.
Fun money.
Okay, so you get the weekly money and the fun money.
Weekly money covers your groceries, your routine, everything you do week in, week out. So, and then the fun money suddenly comes in. And then if fun money comes in, you want to buy a new phone, you want to get some new clothes, you've got to buy a birthday gift for your mum, whatever that happens to be, the months, we recommend it lands on the first of the month, no matter when you're paid. Because if it lands on the beginning of August, immediately your brain goes to, oh, hang on, August, I've got this, this, and this happening. It could be an event, it could be a friend's wedding, birthday, it could be whatever it is. You know straight away because it's August. But if I ask you what's coming up between the middle of this month and the middle of next month, that's quite a hard ask. If I ask you what's happening in the next 2 weeks, you've got to look at your calendar. But if I ask you what's happening in August, August triggers in your brain immediately, oh, this. And then if you've got this, and this happening, then maybe you can't buy the clothes or the new phone because you need it for this, and this, whatever they happen to be.
And let me ask you, for the business owners here, how do we now implement this also with the business? Because now business money comes in, it's the same. A lot of us business owners, we think, oh, that's my money, but no, it's not your money.
And here's the crazy thing. A lot of business owners tell me this because I work with a lot of business owners and I coach them on how to do this, is that they say, oh, but my income is variable. I might suddenly get lows in this month and not so much next month. So I can't do this. And I say, no. It's more important that you do it because remember, when you've got loads of money, your propensity to waste it is enormous. So it's not about whether your income is variable. It's about saying, where do I want to call my baseline? And if my baseline is at this level of spending, I'm going to give myself that much weekly and that much monthly. Even when I have a great big month, I'm still going to spend this much weekly and this much monthly. Because there's going to be, for every great big month, there could be a fallow month. And I'm still going to spend this much weekly and this much monthly. Because now I can predict my spending for the entire year. All my variable spending for the entire year is 100% predictable. Imagine that. Imagine trying to plan a business where 100% of your variable spending is predictable. That's much harder for a business. But funnily enough, Michael Michalowicz, who I've referenced before, he has a great book called Profit First. And he talks about exactly the same things for business. In other words, the structure I've mentioned for your personal side, you mimic in your business. And so your business revenue comes into a revenue account. You set money aside for taxes and for superannuation and other things that you have to pay. You pay yourself from that account a wage. Okay? You must give yourself a wage into your bills, your personal bills account.
Okay, so yep.
It also says put money aside for profit first. That's why the book's called Profit First, because most people think that revenue minus costs equals profit. For small businesses, that's not true. Revenue minus profit is actually what you've got left to spend, and so you tend to spend it. So there's a tendency within the business, for your business, there's a tendency to spend money on microphones, on equipment, on other things. Same for me, same for my small business owners. Whereas if you've already set aside your money for your taxes, you've set aside your money for the hard bills that you've got for the business, you've set aside money to pay yourself wages as the owner of the business, and you've put aside money as profit for the business, and then what you've got left in your bank account to spend, or you move it into a spending bank account. I've got a business spending bank account with a card access. That's the account where I can spend money.
So your business, you can go and spend the money on the
And
camera.
if I want to go and get a new camera or a new photocopier or a new laptop or something like that, it's from that account. And I know it's okay to spend that money because I've already set aside the money for my taxes, for my business bills, for my profit, and for my wages.
Okay, and for example, paying staff, employees, that's coming out of the like where all the money is going.
Correct.
to.
Yeah. So it's like my bills. So that lands. Employees have to be paid.
Yeah.
But not only do the employees have to be paid, you've got to put aside money for their superannuation, for their the taxes, because you're going to pay them a net figure, and then you've got to declare that net figure to the government. And what was the gross figure? Then you've got to pay that in tax.
Yeah.
You've got 10% GST. So if you don't put that money aside and you just see that in your bank account, and you'd go, oh, shall I get a new something for my business? And you see the money in your bank account, yeah, well. And then you do that, and then all of a sudden, you get a tax bill or you get your quarterly BAS due. You're going to get burnt really badly, really quickly.
Okay, and the same process with the business, that cash money, you don't have access to that card.
We don't have card access. I've got one business account with card access, which is my Suncorp account. Again, I've got another Macquarie cash management account for the business. So all the money I got a couple of them for the business. So the money lands in there. Then money automatically goes to my tax account, which is another savings account within Macquarie. And then I put some money into the Suncorp account, and that's what I can spend on business expenses. And if I don't have the money in that account, I can't spend it.
Yeah, and business expenses, would you count the stuff like the coffees, maybe you're taking from a meeting, lunch?
Of course, but again, it's from that same bank account. So if that bank account runs low, I need to slow down my spending until I get more revenue coming in. And if I want more revenue to come in, I don't want to spend that revenue automatically. I want to make sure I always put some aside for profit, some aside for taxes. And I also always pay myself a wage. It's a very hard thing to do when you start off in business, to pay yourself a wage. But the sooner you start doing that, the easier it is to run your personal finances, and the easier it is for you to predict what's going to happen next. But more importantly, it stops you from the feast and famine. In other words, I just had a huge month. I buy everything, I spend all the money on my personal stuff, and then you suddenly have the famine month where there's nothing going on. You're on rice and beans, and there's, you can't pay your bills and that kind of stuff. You don't want that happening. It's stressful. You want to run on an even keel as you can on the personal side, especially if you've got a family. It's a lot easier to manage a family when you give yourself a wage, and then know that that's the cost of running that business.
Okay, and last question, because I can keep asking you questions. The last one, with the business one, paying yourself, like let's say you also want to do the holidays and stuff like that. Do you take now, when you pay yourself into your account for your personal one, does that holiday one, everything, the holiday come out of that?
Yeah.
Pay yourself.
Yeah, so my business account pays my personal account. My personal account then does all the automatic transfers exactly as per the book. One goes to holidays, one goes to fun, one goes to the weekly, or two for, if there's a couple, you always get a weekly amount each.
She has a weekly spending one, I have a weekly spending one.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Fun varies by couple. Some couple need a fun account each. Some can have one between them. I'm a tight ass, so I never had a fun account until I got separated, because my wife just took care of all of that money. Yeah. Now I have to have a fun account, otherwise I can't afford to take my son to dinner for his birthday.
Yeah. No, this has been a really good podcast, and I just love the way you broke it down, because when you do it like this, it makes so much sense. And I don't care if I'm earning $1,000 a month. I don't care what that amount is. When you structure it like this, it makes so much sense. And so, doing with the bank and also with golden eggs, right? Like reading your book, went in and registered, and I'm still filling out the
web app.
The web app.
app.goldeneggs.info. Yeah.
And we'll put the link in the description for you guys to access that. I started it, and I'm listing the goals, right? So 1 year goals,
1 to 2 years, 3 to 10 years.
Yes.
10 years plus.
So I'm going through the stages, and I can't wait to keep going and learning from you, because this is so important.
And the goals is that we skipped over it, but actually, all of this idea of the different buckets and transfers and the different bank accounts. If you don't have any goals, just spend all your money. It's fine. Yeah. But as soon as you have goals to either take great holidays or one day stop working or buy a property or something like that, when you set yourself goals for those things, you suddenly realize that perhaps I shouldn't be spending all my income. And I don't know if you know this, but do you know what percentage of income Australians spend? So out of every $100 that Australians earn from their wages, do you know what proportion they spend?
I think if I remember, maybe around 90%, something like that.
I wish it was 90. It's like 99.1, $99.10. We're currently saving 90 cents out of every $100.
I believe
as a nation. And that means there's going to be some people saving 20% of their income and some people that are overspending by 20% more than what they're earning. And yet the figure back when the days when we used cash was closer to 20%. And the cost of living is lower as a proportion of income today than what it was 50 years ago. The cost of living. The cost of our lifestyle, however, has crept and crept and crept as our income has grown. And so now we're spending 99.1% of our income when we would have been spending 80% in the past.
Wow, phenomenal.
But goals, set yourself some goals and then try and hit them with what you're earning.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Max. As I said, this could have gone on for long. We'll have to have you on again. A separate show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been brilliant fun.
Yeah, but no, honestly, really, really, truly amazing and fascinating. So guys, all of Max's details link in the description. You'll be able to get in touch with Golden Eggs. You know, the book, definitely both books will have down. And so
yeah, spending fast and slow. Slow down, why your money disappears so fast and how to slow down the flow and actually get more happiness out of life. Because if it doesn't make you happier, I don't know why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm. And this is so powerful because everything, you see a lot of relationships and things for finance is a huge role in all of our lives, and there's things that we don't even like talking about, right?
Yeah.
But I really believe this is so. I read it at the perfect time in my life right now. So thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks again for having me.
Cool.
If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to click here, and I'm sure you're gonna love that one.